Welcome. I'm Anne McLean from the library's music division. This is a wonderful occasion for us. We're so delighted tonight to be presenting these two extraordinary artists admired by music lovers worldwide, Anne-Sophie Mutter and Lambert Orkes. Please welcome them. It's tremendously exciting for us to have you here, and especially as part of our centennial celebration. And Anne-Sophie, this concert grew out of your very quick visit here in 2014 with the Mutter Virtuosi, and you had a quick afternoon visit with our instruments, the Kermanese collection. It was a very memorable thing for us, and we always wanted to have you back. So it's great this has happened. And Lambert, lovely.
Thank you. I'm all excited because although it has been in 2014, it feels like yesterday because I fell in love with Fritz Kreisler's Guarneri. And you will hear this gorgeous instrument later. It is quite a spiritual moment when you pick up a violin by another musician who has lived with that instrument for decades. It is really then a dialogue between yourself and that person who has left so much of his personality in the instrument. So it's a quite one of the really wonderful moments in my life that I have the great fortune, the great honor to have this wonderful connection to the legendary Library of Congress and its phenomenal instruments, in particularly Fritz Kreisler's Guarneri.
You know, I know this is the 37th season, right, for you, for your collaboration? And a remarkably enduring partnership. Carnegie Hall talks about you as timeless, one of the great recital teams. And I was thinking, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the elements that you think have made your partnership so powerful and such a collaboration possible for so long? And two other quick questions. How do you go about planning for tours like this? How do you choose the repertoire? I know you've made many major tours. And finally, with so many concerts and activities, how do you relax?
Wow. Quite a lot of questions. I will try to answer one of them, which is how we came about the program. Yeah. I think this time we wanted also to come back to pieces we have particularly loved in our musical relationship of over the last 37 years. And at that center, I think we have put Schubert's Fantasy, which is the most difficult piece in the repertoire period.
Yes.
For you as well, I think for any pianist and for any violinist. It's the depth of philosophy behind it, but it's also technically the variations. It's extremely, you need skillful playing, you need beautiful playing. It's a little bit like Mozart, in a way very little notes, but every note has its very particular own value. So Schubert was in the center for us, coming back to it, maybe bringing something new to an old friend with all the life which has happened in between since '93.
That's right.
Yeah, I had my first child in '91, my son was born in '94, and I lost my husband in '95. So I think today I know better than ever what grieving a loss means. And as we know, the piece is about Sei mir gegrüßt, a song of love, sorrow, and parting.
Separation, perhaps by death. So it's a voyage. It starts in a kind of, what you would say, mystery. Mm-hmm. Then there are these episodes where there's lots of activity, beautiful playing, beautiful sounds, but unsettled, shall we say, unsettled. Then you get to the heart of the matter, where the quotation of the actual song, Sei mir gegrüßt, I greet thee. And the piano introduces the melody. Then we have a series of variations. It's not unlike the Trout Quintet. You have the Trout melody and a series of variations, some of it to show off what we can do. And we once again climb the mountain. Hopefully we survive. Yeah. And then it goes back to the beginning, this mystery again. And the next section, the Allegro, reminds me of a person who maybe has suffered loss, as we all probably have, and you get on with your life. You get on with your life, but you can't get rid of the sorrow. And the piece gets more and more frenetic, and so suddenly you'll hear the piano crashing in a totally alien key, and that haunting melody of Zymier Gergus comes back. And then the violin takes over and brings us to C major, heavenly heights.
And hope.
And then the last page of the piano score, presto, it's unison. The people are joined. Whether it's here on earth or someplace else, we don't know, but they're together. It's one of the great emotional journeys in music that we play.
Yeah. And
Not played that often, so comparatively.
there are reasons. As Lambert just wonderfully explained, there are musical and technical reasons, and you need to feel each other and breathe with each other, because it's a very intimate piece of music. And the other piece we wanted to bring back, which we thought we brought something very personal to, is the Respighi Sonata. Once again, also a tumultuous piece being written during the First World War. So looking into the program, we don't want to fright you off, but there's a lot of drama in it, because the next step would be mentioning the piece by the Iranian composer, which will have its Washington, D.C. premiere tonight, Aftab Davishi, a young composer from Iran. So her piece, it's a commission of mine, has also to do with the loss of your country, your home, any kind of, feeling of parting. It's just in human history, we go through darkness to light, as Beethoven used to say. And in a way, I think we bring this journey in the recital program also on stage, with finishing off after the Respighi. Finally, I can meet Fritz Kreisler again. That will, we have a slight change in the program for the ones who hopefully stay on, but I will announce it also in the second half. So I won't play the Fritz Kreisler Viennoise, Caprice Viennoise in the program, as I have to change the chin rest. So that the happy ending is going to come after we have all lived through the dramas of loss, sorrow, love, and beauty.
That's right.
There's so many connections to what you were just talking about in terms of our collections too, and not just the violin, but we have Fritz Kreisler's personal collection, his papers, all the composition, manuscripts for his compositions, and even the ones that he wrote that people didn't really know were his for so many years. We have those as well. And a tiny baby Kreisler violin that you'll see tomorrow that he had as a child. So
how beautiful he kept that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I kept my first fiddle as well. Yeah, and as Kreisler was this really phenomenal Wunderkind. At the age of 7, he started. He was the youngest pupil at the Musikfreunde in Vienna, where also Brahms was. He started as youngest student ever with 7, and he was finished with 12 with his musical education. I feel like a dinosaur. It took me until I was 16.
tell us about a comment about the Caprice Viennoise. Our commentator says it's a love letter to Vienna. Are there any particular Viennese touches that are in the writing, any elements of it, and how do you relate to them?
I think it's the state of mind which reminds me of the ever melancholic Austrian souls who go to a cafe house in order to linger and talk about the wonderful, maybe Hungarian, Austrian time together, the good old times. It all is very laid back. And of course, in preparing for tonight, Lambert and I have very thoroughly listened to the recordings of Fritz Kreisler to really understand his way of sound production and laid-back melancholy. So I think it's this very typical Austrian melancholy, which is at the center, isn't it, Lambert?
It's sad without being tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, you linger over your coffee, maybe mid-schlag.
Definitely.
You have something else alcoholic in it. Confection,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And life is good, but probably was better yesterday.
Yes.
And you played this all through your tour. This piece has been, it's a 5-city tour, right? Major stops everywhere.
Actually, Fritz Kreisler's music is in my life since I have been a child. But basically, in the first few years of my playing, I did a lot of Fritz Kreisler. Of course, different, no understanding of melancholy back then. Yeah, so that is just kind of under my skin, and yeah.
For a moment, we could backtrack to the Mozart, and I was going to ask you about that. I loved your comment that these sonatas, early sonatas, are like little operatic scenes with narratives. That's a charming, expound on that a little bit.
Lambert, do you want to explain a little from your viewpoint?
Well, one of the things that we did when we were preparing to do the cycle of Mozart sonatas is look carefully at the letters that Mozart had written to his father and the letters that he had received from various peoples. And for example, you take the E minor sonata, the only sonata that he wrote of the mature sonatas, that's in a minor key.
A few years later when he was in Paris.
He was in Paris, he was 22
yeah.
years old, his mother died. His father blamed him for contributing to his mother's death, demanded he return home. He had left with his mother to go to Mannheim. Basically, he was trying to get out of
and get a job there again.
Father was domineering. The archbishop was not conducive to the kind of music he wanted to make. So as you go through those particular sonatas, the one we played tonight, it's obviously a piece that's joyful. There's nothing,
other than the minor section in the second movement, but that's still
it's
more melancholic than.
It's written for the countess to play.
Yeah.
And people, the aristocrats, they were not considered sophisticated unless they could play instruments. And so they had the hardware, they had, the keyboard and the violin, they needed the software.
Yeah.
And Mozart was one of those willing to supply it.
Yeah. And isn't it beautiful how we share in the first movement the melody? It's either you are playing the melody and I'm accompanying, or I'm having it. So it's a very tightly knit conversation already.
It's also written with the idea that you could play it on a harpsichord. Never heard it done that way, and I don't want to hear it done that way actually. But the forte piano that Mozart had, and he was the person that made the forte piano popular, was very weak in the treble.
Yeah.
Hence, the violin often
needed to be the megaphone.
Support,
Yeah. This, of course, is different tonight.
Of course.
You don't need support.
Big
There's this big animal here.
I know that on some of the manuscripts it says cembalo, and that's what you're referring to with it for either a pianoforte or harpsichord, or just pianoforte.
Yeah, well, part of it is that when these instruments came out, they weren't cheap, and people weren't going to buy them necessarily. So they had their harpsichord around, so play it on that as
use
well.
It. Yep.
It's just a good, economic, good business sense.
Yeah.
And these are ones that are beginning to be more integrated for the two players, right?
Yes, definitely.
These 1778, I think it is.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Well, the function, it's one piece of music and requires two people. Something like the Chrysler, the piano is merely supportive. It's not really in the conversation except for a few notes here and there.
Yeah.
It gives harmonic support.
Yeah.
But sonatas are more
really
intertwined.
Yeah. And I think back to this issue of whether it's violin and piano or piano and violin, you were saying, we got the comment from Suzanne Neely that you were saying that the Schubert may have also been having the label as piano and violin as well. Is that the case?
These are the titles the composer gave it.
I beg your pardon?
These are the title the composer gave it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Now, a good example of this there are 7 duos of Johannes Brahms. 3 with violin, 2 with clarinet, 2 with cello. For all of them, for 5, Brahms gives the title for piano and violin, piano and cello. But for the clarinet, it's the other way around. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And what I like to see in titles is what the composer put down.
So it's a killer program that you've chosen, and the Respighi is not so easy either.
We tend not to,
We don't think
take
about
easy programs. No, we just play what we believe in, and we try to create an arch which shows probably also a certain development in music history, a certain, sense of community within the pieces.
You know, I was going to say that we have a connection in that Respighi played this sonata here on this stage himself in
Really?
1927. It's kind of amazing. I didn't know that until I saw your program, and I was thinking, I knew he had performed here, but I didn't know exactly when. So he was both a violinist and pianist, like Mozart.
Almost 100 years ago.
It was a whole. The interesting thing is that it was a portrait concert. It was an all Respighi evening, which was was unusual for us then and unusual now. But he played and his wife sang. The violinist was someone I don't know, Wolfensohn. Wolfensohn. Anyway, it's an interesting thing. But so, and this also has variations as a major part of the piece.
Passacaglia.
Yep, exactly the last movement. Yeah.
It's actually sometimes quite brutal because it depicts the defeat of the Italian armed forces at the hands of the Austrians. And he mixes those big battle scenes with the tragic aftermath, the death and destruction. But it's also the beauty of Italy. I think it's one of the more evocative pieces that we play that invoke a landscape of
Definitively, yeah, yeah.
The
He's always been
smell
a
of
landscape
flowers.
composer.
And there's nationalism. At the end, you get the feeling, don't mess with Italy. We will rise again.
You know, I was thinking about the connection of commissioning, and I just wanted to ask you for a moment to talk about your passion for supporting new music, and of course the piece we're going to hear tonight. And I was wondering, I understand that you sometimes commission works for the people in your who are your scholarship holders as well.
Yes, that's correct.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I have this foundation since 27 years in aid of young string players. My first scholar comes from Beijing, and modern music, contemporary music, introducing a young generation to the future of music making, to the current state of composition, is a very large part of educating them, getting them ready for a relationship with these composers, because it's our duty. To keep music alive and to nourish artists around us, and that of course includes composers. And so we will have quite a phenomenal new project for the Virtuosi in 2027, which will mark if I'm still alive then, my 50th stage anniversary. And it's a commission to one of America's greatest composers, Sebastian Carrier, who has already previously written violin concerto piece for us, a piano trio, a fantastic ghost trio, and then a piece for double bass and violin. And so that piece by Sebastian is called The Seasons, because it will be set in dialogue with Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And it will be in conjunction with the videographer. And we want to explore music hand in hand with video art, how we live through the seasons in 2026, 27. So it will be a dialogue with the past, and I think it will be rather, thought-evoking. And I'm very excited to combine two art forms as well, because I do think one of the keys to keep music in the center of attention, if it ever has the center, also in the younger generation, is to be more open-minded when it comes A, to venues where we perform, and B, how we present music. And that has nothing to do with dimming our sense of quality and what needs to be done, but it's more of an openness to bring new aspects to performing. And that's also one of the reasons why my virtuosi and I love to play in clubs, in smaller rooms where people stand around you and where music is really felt very immediate in a much more relaxed atmosphere, just to remove that hurdle which seems to be felt by some younger possible audience members of going to get into a very traditional hall with our traditional, very beautiful rules, but we just need a set of other possibilities. And then, of course, lending instruments to the youngsters and just going on stage with them as we did in 2014, being here in the States, and we are going to South America together in a few years. So yeah, looking out for the young generation is one of my great passions.
It's going to be a marvelous year, and you have so many activities. I mean, this is just the beginning, as I understand. You have a lot in planning still. Well, this is something related to some notes I saw that you had, or comments that I saw you had made about the place of music in our society today and the role of the artist. It's particularly in an astonishingly rapidly changing world. Comment on this, because you've said you're an idealist and you're an optimist. How do you maintain this, and what are you thinking these days along the lines of what you're talking about with your big new projects for the future, for youth?
Before I, can I answer that first? Yeah. I have felt very strongly during that tour through America a very intense response by the audience to all the pieces of music we brought to your beautiful country. And that sense of community and need to exchange and be open towards each other is something I cherish very much, probably more so than ever. And I think that music seems to be the only meeting point we have left in life, which is non-competitive, which is really embracing everybody, is non-judgmental, and we can, I think, develop a sense of unity and of knowing that we all feel the same, that we all have the same rights, and the same wishes, and the same hopes, and the same dreams, and we can, for a moment, experience that enlightened stage and and that's why I'm optimistic, because only in a live performance will you have that sense of community. And I'm speaking as an audience member as well, not only as someone on stage, but I just love going to performances and be enwrapped in that process, in this unrepeatable moment. And what is more precious in life than these moments of unrepeated wonder? And so I'm still optimistic.
I'm going to approach this from a somewhat different angle. It's less philosophical. I have my work at Temple University, I'm in contact with, in my entire class, I have only one American. Many Russians, Belarusians, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and so on. Japan, Taiwan, People's Republic of China. And they all come wanting to work on the classics. They hear us play Respighi, they want to play Respighi. Okay, fine. Want to play Schubert? Good luck. We'll try. They're advanced. I asked them to be curious about the world, not only their music. Johannes Brahms once said, music is about something, it's not an end unto itself. To be aware. One of the courses I do teach at Temple University is modern music. And sometimes their eyes cross, because I have a local connection. I was with the 20th Century Consort. The stage, we did many, many recordings. The 21st Century Consort it's called now. It's still going. Christopher Kendall's still the music director. But I share a lot of that experience with my students, and they say you need to look in your culture for modernisms, things that connect with your culture. It's just not enough just to take the Western culture. And as a result, I had this one young man, his name is Zhang Yiming. He went back to China. He found a composer in China that wrote significant piano music. He didn't know it existed. He started to play it. His assignment in class was a piece that was written for me by George Crumb, Little Sweet for Christmas. And he heard Asiatic influences in there. So he goes back home. He basically owns the piece now. And he gets composers who are now seeing that connection and writing in that style, combining Western and Eastern elements. And then he had this great idea. He also studied forte piano with me. There's an instrument that's like a Japanese koto. It's very small. And like the European clavichord, doesn't produce a lot of sound. And this composer wrote a piece for both clavichord and this Asiatic instrument. And of course, if you want to hear it, very clever, modernism, it's amplified. So he's using modern technology and these ancient things, because people will have to find new things to say. You know, we have to say the emotions, but there are many ways of sharing our emotions. So that's my take on this.
And these days, with the advent of AI, that's a whole nother world to think about. We don't have to go into that now, but it's something that will change everything. However, I don't think it will ever change pure sound, pure emotion, pure connection to the great art that you often are giving to audiences. And I know you need to warm up here in just a moment, so we want to stop our conversation. But I wanted to say that this conversation will be online, thanks to the artists. And tomorrow we're going to be sharing a few moments with our instruments, something that's very exciting, and we look forward to putting that online as well. But just before we stop talking, I'm curious, with this relationship that's gone on so long and so much work, intensity, what do you do in your off hours? How do you relax? Do you ever just do things that are just purely wacky for fun?
I like to hike. I have taken up archery a few years ago, which I like a lot because it calms me down. I'm kind of an overactive person, so relaxing comes difficult to me. But cooking, going to the movies, nothing really particularly exotic. Of course, seeing my grown-up children is one of the always high points, and just makes me feel whole. And I'm a concertizing mother, and that will never change, no matter how old my children are. They are now 33 and 31, and I think that really is the center part, and it just gives me, it's my compass. So
me, you will often find me out of doors carrying around stupidly heavy and expensive camera equipment, taking pictures of birds, especially being challenged by flying birds.
and you do that exquisitely well. He was in National Geographic with all of his pictures.
Let me say, I have some pictures published. I'll go that far.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I was so curious. I really appreciate your saying those things. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us
Great
tonight.
pleasure.
And we'll let you go and get warmed
Thank you,
up.
Anne.
See you later.